Pardon?
Yeah. I think we could probably take some of that. I don't know how much publicity has been through the departments anyway on what John's office has created as the criteria to use it. So.
Anybody else? Councilwoman McGinnis?
I think that it was mentioned when this was placed on the agenda at the last meeting as something we'd be discussing further, but there were, or no, actually it was an answer to questions, I think, that you had provided at the last meeting, but there were some specific numbers that were thrown out or specific projects that you had listed that had already come in under budget. So based on those numbers or I know discussions that you had with the different departments to come to us with an answer in terms of funding, is it your understanding that there is going to be $200,000 that you be able to put together from projects that came in under budget and departments that have money left over from people that have left early? I got that impression that we could reach that number, because I think rather than just kind of talk in generalities, if we can find it, I think it would be good to know if we're going to have consensus at the table today that actual number can be reached in a number of ways, it sounded like. I think that that's important to do, and I think we can do that today. But the other thing that we want to keep in mind is that there are some tangibles that we would be getting that we can't put an exact dollar amount. I think luckily we're able to look at some of these things that we talked about tonight and that you gave us in the answers to give us an exact amount. So I do feel comfortable that that's a number that we can actually get to. But I also think that there's some intangibles that have to be taken into account, and that's building the trust. The other thing too that I don't think anyone has mentioned is the fact that there are a lot of other things that we're doing, and it's constant motion here. And I think that we would be hurting ourselves to take away all of that time that we would get from doing something like this. And not allow us to move forward on some of the bigger projects that we've been talking about. Obviously, all of the time and effort has gone to good use thus far in the departments that have been reviewed and all the work that's been put in by Carlisle Wortman. But that's something that every day that you were dealing with that, you weren't dealing with some of the other things that we need to keep doing. We can't keep putting them on the back burner. So that's another intangible that I think we have to look at. We're all confident, and I think we are, in the abilities and the expertise, that for us to make a decision to move forward with this, and obviously it's monitored and department heads are going to be involved, but that does free up some time until we've got recommendations back that we can also focus on the things that we need to be doing on a week-to-week or month-to-month or day-to-day basis. So I think that that's something we can't really put a monetary value on, but should definitely be factored in. And like I said, I think you did provide us some specifics. I think we've talked about some very specific ways that you're going to look to actually come up with that money. And I feel comfortable based on those answers that we could do what Councilman Beltramini suggested in terms of using those sources first before we go somewhere else.
I can put that in a letter format. Hopefully the outcome of this meeting, pardon my voice, excuse me, will be that there's a consensus to bring this on the next agenda. We'll get a contract from Craig, and Lori and I will take a look at it with the restructuring team, and then bring it back for approval with the funding sources at the next city council meeting, October 4th.
Okay. Anybody else? Mayor Pro Tem Fleming?
The scope of the project specifically as it relates to maintenance functions, public works, and so forth, building operations, on page 12. Will they be looking at potential for outsourcing compared to cost? Do I see this on here? Anything about outsourcing? Am I overlooking it or something?
No, we'll look at it would be included in the words alternative service delivery method. So
alternative service delivery method to include public consolidation. So is that in the other departments? Are you considering that? You see that in the human resource person?
We we're gonna look, we're gonna take a look at every department from that same perspective. So anything that's,
Okay.
everything is on the table essentially.
And when you look at, can I just address a question of this?
Please do, I mean, it's,
The
up to the chair.
Element 7, benefit comparative analysis, we be focusing on, not only current employees who plan to retire, but existing retiree benefits, comparing those to other benefits of retired,
Well,
who are already retired.
There were two things that we were asked to respond to, and essentially, the first one in an earlier version of this was retirement benefits, and John wanted to know, the city manager wanted to know whether or not we could give a perspective as to whether the city of Troy was leading the pack, somewhere in behind, where were you comparatively? And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to tell you whether you're at a competitive position somewhere out in the lead or lagging behind. We'll give you that very clearly. In addition to that, the second version of that, the enhanced version, will also be to look at salaries and benefits and do a comparison of that, and again, give you more perspective from a competitive and comparative standpoint.
Council, we're going to have to extend our meeting time. What would you like to extend it to?
Actually, you do not need to extend.
Because we're already in the item,
Yes,
that's
you
right.
can.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Councilman Snyder?
Could I ask,
Mhm.
is this a process that you're going to do all on your own, then come back to us with a conclusion, or are we going to be meeting with you along the way, or can we make suggestions to do things like that to you, or, I don't know, what was the intent?
Ideally,
Ideally?
Mayor,
Yes,
members,
go ahead.
ideally, what we want to do is, we want to come in, we want to mobilize, we want to, number one, gain a better understanding of a variety of things, one of which is service levels, expectations, what's going on now. Part of that is going to be in direct communication and consultation with all of the department leaders and staff. I think it would be real important for us to understand from you how you also see service expectations, because at the end of the day, sustainability is an important component and something that we're going to offer an opinion on. And that's a foundational aspect of the final report. So when it comes right down to it, what you all say is the service level expectation of the city. Now, you've apparently expressed that in budgets and a 3-year plan and a variety of other things. We could certainly pull those away and read them, and that would be great and wonderful. I'd prefer to talk to you about that. And so we would want to do that. And there will be an interim set of conclusions. We'd come back and talk about that, and then we'll issue a final report. So there'll be a couple of opportunities for us to do that. Arguably on an accelerated pace, but assuming we can all agree to meeting times and that sort of thing, there is that caveat.
All right, so it's going to come back. I don't think you've already given us your sales pitch. of this,
I'll
but-
dispense with the 3-hour presentation.
Was it helpful? Okay. Was it helpful for you to hear our discussion?
Yes,
Okay,
very,
so
very.
you've already gleaned some things just
No.
from
Absolutely.
our conversation and our flow.
I'd like to just add one thing.
Yes.
A couple of you mentioned this. My areas of expertise is in public safety, although I've been a city manager and an HR director and stuff. One of the things that I'm concerned about is that everybody understands the implications of the cuts that you are planning to have in the police department. And that will be an important part of our review, because I think it's critical for you and the public to understand that this doesn't come free. There's
Right.
going to be an impact on the level of police service delivery in the city with the cuts that you're anticipating making, and we are going to we're going to measure that in a way, and we're going to do some what-if scenarios for you, so you'll be able to see what deployment's going to look like, how it may affect response times, and at a couple of different levels. So I don't want you to think that we're going to come back and say, and I don't know what we're going to say, but our mindset is we're going to tell you the truth. And it may very well be that the truth will not be the kind of city that you all want to live in, given what the outcome would be of these cuts, but that's not gonna dissuade us from telling you what the actual outcome, and a lot of that is data analysis. It's gonna be conducted by, led by Dr. Choust out of Wayne State University, and by taking a real operations research approach to this thing, so that the people that you're gonna give this to, your public, will be able to have confidence in the outcome of that analysis. But it'll be very graphic, and it'll be very specific as to what some of the implications are of the potential cuts that you're facing. So I don't want to promise you that we're going to come back and say this is going to work. We're going to tell you, that's not our job is to tell you what the implications are.
That's what we want to know.
Right, so,
But-
yeah.
All right.
As a follow-up to that, and not just in the area of public safety, if you find a path that we are going down that makes us unsustainable, will you also tell us what the potential correction might
Well,
be?
we'll try to do that, sure. We'll try to
Okay.
identify options for you.
Right.
I mean, one of the things we're going to do in a public safety thing is really explore what partnerships you have with other communities, and you know, the chief's done a great job on looking at those things, but we'll look at them in some depth and try to see if there's some other things out there that you may want to consider as well.
Yeah, across the board, in general, if we see something that's not sustainable, we won't just lay that on the table and say, well, have a nice day. We'll come back and give you some opportunity to examine other alternatives, and we'll point that out. We'll take it from the perspective of, here's what's happening in other parts of the country, here's what seems to be best practice, here are things that have been tried, and we'll give you that, and we'll lay that out for you. That's our commitment.
And clarify for me again, from the time that we approve and approve a contract, what is the time frame we're looking at?
Well, there are a variety of different things, and let me see if I can lay that out for you clearly. Leonard and the Public Safety Group, theirs is a longer time period, very specifically. They do a significant amount of hard data analysis, taking call data and analyzing it. So that's about a 120-day process for theirs. And the rest of it, we're saying from the time we execute a contract, it would be 75 days till you get the final report, but we would accelerate certain pieces of it because we know you have a couple of things that are on the front burner. So we're going to attempt to work within that constraint, but 75 days essentially is what we're saying.
Okay. All right.
And that's
Any other
75 days
questions?
to a full report?
Yeah,
Not in the
But
public
no,
safety.
just
But not in the
in
public
those other
safety.
Oh,
days,
no, I
not in the
understand
public
that, but
safety.
all the other,
yeah.
okay, very
Okay.
excellent.
And I would be remiss, and my team would beat me up for not saying this. The caveat is, of course, everything is dependent on, are people available? Can we meet
Right.
when we're supposed to? You know, all of that sort of.
Right, right. But being that the public safety area is the largest portion of our budget,
Right.
it's very important that we have that data, you know, when we're
Right,
putting all the pieces
and our constraints
together.
are there is that we take a raw data dump out of
Yes.
the CAD system. We're not going to rely on any reports from the police department. I mean, we'll look at things that they have, but all of our analysis is going to come from the hard, raw data.
Okay.
And the time frame on how long that takes is dependent on the quality of the data in the system and how much we have to do to clean it up to be able to analyze it. The good news is that Wayne State's right around the corner, so several of the professors it's easy for them to get here, and they'll be able to work real closely with their communications people to extract that information as quickly as possible.
Okay, that's good. All right,
Your Honor,
yes, Mr. Zerwin?
Do you see a need to bring back Craig and Len next time?
Do you, counsel? I don't. No.
Save the money.
No, I don't think so. We have one member absent, but that's only one, and the rest of us seem comfortable with the, yes.
There was no cost for this meeting. I do owe these two gentlemen a soda pop. That was the deal.
Right.
So.
We were thinking something a little stronger than a soda pop. We'll wait till the next time.
I had a beer once in my life. I can see how.
Next time we have to meet, we're gonna try to not take you on the train track.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you very
We're
much.
really excited about this
Very
project, and I
excited.
think ICMA is going to use this, look at this as a model project to help some other communities,
Right.
just like you've done in some of the other
Okay.
things. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there nothing else
No.
on the study? We're in adjournment.
Sorry.
Thank you.